Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 2. I am Francis Oyima Edet, coming to you live from the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government denies subsidy return. NACO set to release 2023 SSC results. Plus, UN says complete closure of Gaza Strip violates international law. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. First in the news this afternoon is a report that the federal government has denied reintroducing the subsidy on premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, amid the closure of many filling stations nationwide due to various challenges in the downstream oil sector. It also said that pockets of queues observed by motorists in petrol stations across the country stemmed from hiccups in product distribution from the south to the north, not a lack of supply. The announcement came in light of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) declaration that it would have gone bankrupt in June this year had it been the President Bola Tinubu did not hold subsidy on PMS in May. The Group Chief Executive Officer NNPCL, Melekari, told newsmen after an audience with the President at the Esso Rock Villa that fuel subsidy had not been returned. Meanwhile, NNPCL also announced that Nigeria would become a net exporter of refined petroleum products by next year, going by efforts to revamp its refineries. In the meantime, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, has said Nigerians will have their passport delivered to their homes, offices and other locations of their choice from February 2024. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the International Week of the University of Lagos, titled Breaking the Borders of Partnership, Tunji-Ojo said by January next year, Nigerians would be able to complete the application process online. According to Tunji-Ojo, the ministry has commenced the automation of our end-to-end passport application process, and they have given a timeline from which Nigerians will begin to experience the sweet experience. The minister revealed that by implication, Nigerians will not need to wait longer than 2 weeks before they get their passport. By January next year, Nigerians will be able to complete this application process online, and by February next year, with collaboration and partnership with other relevant stakeholders, Nigerians will have their passport delivered to their homes, offices and other locations of their choice. In another development, the federal government has said it will soon issue an order compelling airline operators to start paying compensation to passengers for delayed and cancelled flights not attributed to natural occurrences. The Minister for Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, stated this during a meeting with airline operators in Abuja. Keyamo noted that the federal government will start implementing the provisions of the NCAA Act, stressing that most Nigerians do not know there is compensation for delay. If it is an act of God, you cannot pay. But if it is human fault, the NCAA Act says you will pay. Similarly, the minister urged the airline operators to maintain stable communication channels that enable passengers to get cancellation notices. On academic matters, the Minister of Education, Tahir Maman, has said the government of President Bola Tinubu is interested in a stable academic calendar for tertiary institutions in the country. The minister also noted that plans were ongoing to review the security architecture for schools in the country. Maman, who spoke during an event to mark the 60th anniversary of the Committee of Vice Chancellors in Abuja, noted that the government increased the salaries of. Meanwhile, the minister challenged the committee to place Nigerian universities among global institutions that use science and technology as vehicles for solving their problems. We move to the Red Chambers, where the Senate Committee Chairman on Solid Minerals Development, Osita Ngu, has disclosed that the upper legislative chamber is working on a legislative framework to address the challenges in the solid mineral industry. This was revealed in a statement released by the head of press, Nigeria Mining Cadastre Office, Folashade Fatunke. In the statement, Ngu commended the Nigeria Mining Cadastre Office, MCO, for migrating to an electronic mining cadastre in line with best practices during a recent familiarization visit to the MCO. He further commended the Director General of the MCO, Obadia Nkom, and his team for the continuous rise in its revenue profile since its inception. Away from that, the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, has said it would continue to engage all the critical stakeholders to ensure that unqualified graduates are not allowed into its mobilization process. The NYSC Director General, Brigadier General Wadi Ahmed, disclosed this in Abuja during the 2023 edition of the annual meeting of professionals and regulatory bodies having operational links with the scheme. The DG, who appraised the online application of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, added that the scheme has mapped out strategies to redouble its efforts in enforcing the acquisition of various professional certificates by graduates seeking exemption or participation in national service. Meanwhile, the Director, Corps Mobilization Department, Hajia Walida Sadiq Issa, reiterated the scheme's commitment to the mobilization of only qualified graduates that could compete with their counterparts everywhere in the world. Meanwhile, the National Examination Council (NECO) has said the result of the 2023 Senior Secondary School Certificate will be released today. Recall that NECO concluded the conduct of the examination in early August 2023, and 1,205,888 candidates sat for the examination. 601,074 candidates are male, while 584,814 are females. Reports say the exam body had explained that and planned to release the result within 4 to 5 days, but the promise did not materialize. Meanwhile, NECO confirmed that the result will be released by 11 a.m. today. We move now to Africa, where the West African Elders Forum, WAEF, election mission to Liberia has advised political actors and other stakeholders in today's poll to shun violence and commit to peaceful elections. The head of the WAEF mission and former President Goodluck Jonathan and Deputy Head of Mission, Kandre Guadrago, who is a former Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, in a statement enjoined candidates to abide by the peace accord, urging the National Electoral Commission, NEC, and the security agencies to exercise their mandate in accordance with the nation's laws to build trust and guarantee the integrity of the polls. Meanwhile, President George Weah, who is going for re-election, is being challenged by opposition coalitions, and no fewer than 2.3 million voters are registered to participate in the voting. Still in Africa, the toll from floods in Cameroon's capital has reached 27, with more than 50 injured as rescuers intensify the search for those missing following the deluge the provision day. Recall that the rains unleashed flood waters in the district of Yaoundé, 2 of the country's capital, on Sunday, sweeping away buildings and reducing many to rubble. One of the victims mentioned that some bodies have traveled a long way and have been found more than 100 meters from their homes. Speaking with newsmen, Urbanism Minister Celestine Cortez, who visited the site, called on local residents to follow the instructions of local authorities because the country has so many documents concerning the well and planned evacuation of the cities. On the foreign scene, the United Nations has criticized Israel's decision to stop all food, water, electricity and fuel deliveries to Gaza Strip. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk said in Geneva today that it was forbidden under international humanitarian law to deprive people of what they needed to survive. The commissioner added that the imposition of sieges that endanger the lives of civilians by depriving them of goods essential for their survival is prohibited on the Palestinian territory in response to the large-scale human attack that left around 900 people dead in the country, and several hundreds of people have been killed in Gaza in retaliatory strikes by the Israeli Air Force. Still on the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden has been interviewed as part of a probe into his handling of classified documents after he left the vice presidency in 2017. Reports say Biden met voluntarily with Special Counsel Robert Hur at the White House over 2 days. Recall that Hur was appointed after a separate investigation was launched into secret documents found at Donald Trump's home. Meanwhile, Ian Sams, a spokesman for Biden, said in a statement that the interview was conducted and the president has been cooperating with the investigation. Still to come in the news, UEFA confirms UK and Republic of Ireland as Euro 2028 host. To stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of our news stories. On a business news, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has downgraded Nigeria's economic growth by 0.3 percentage points to 29% for 2023, following weaker oil and gas production. The IMF disclosed these in its new World Economic Outlook for October, themed Navigating Global Divergences, released today. Recall that in July, the lender projected that Nigeria's economy would grow by 3.2% in 2023. Then it predicted that growth in the country would be impacted by security issues in the oil sector. Commenting on its new prediction for the country, the Washington-based lender said growth in Nigeria is projected to decline from 3.3% in 2022 to 2.9% in 2023 and 3.1% in 2024, with negative effect of high inflation and consumption taking hold. Still in business, the e-Naira is being refined and adjusted in order to enhance the experience of users across various platforms or systems. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in a statement signed by the bank's spokesman Issa Abdul Mumin, said the goal is to make it easier and more convenient for people to use the e-Naira. The statement emphasized the importance of Nigerians adopting this technology while stating that the e-Naira structure is evolving and undergoing modifications to improve the user experience. Recall that the CBN released a statement in response to news reports suggesting that the central bank digital currency, CBDC, the e-Naira, poses a threat to the country's financial stability. We move to health, where as the world marks World Mental Health Day today, the World Health Organization, WHO, has said there is a need for the government to adopt legislative reforms to end coercion in mental health services and enshrine free and informed consent as the basics of all mental health-related interventions. The World Mental Health Day is celebrated every year on October 10th to raise awareness about mental health around the world and to mobilize efforts to support those experiencing mental health issues. WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said mental health is an integral and essential component of the right of health and affirmed that this new guidance will support countries to make the changes needed to provide quality mental health care that assists a person's recovery and respects their dignity. According to WHO, there is a growing body of evidence that indicates how coercive practices negatively impact physical and mental health. Meanwhile, WHO said legislative provision should provide guidelines on how more complex and challenging cases can be handled in legislation and policies without recourse to coercive practices. Still in health, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has confirmed that 117 children died following a diphtheria outbreak in Yobe in 2022. The agency, however, said that 1,600 children had recovered from the disease within the period under review. Executive Director of the agency, Dr. Faisal Schwaib, stated this during an inspection visit to the Diphtheria Isolation Center in Potiskum, the epicenter of the disease in the state. He said 1,796 cases of the disease had been reported in Yobe since November 2022, adding that the disease was more prevalent among children aged 5 to 14 years. In sports, the Union of European Football Association UEFA has confirmed that the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland will host the 2028 European Championship. Reports say the joint bid ran unopposed after Turkey withdrew to focus on a bid with Italy for Euro 2032, which was also confirmed at a meeting in Switzerland. The UK and Ireland focus on Euro 2028 with UEFA's approval after they ended a plan to be Europe's preferred candidate for the 2030 World Cup. Meanwhile, the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Wales have never hosted a major football tournament. Still in sports, former Chelsea winger Eden Hazard has announced his retirement from football. Recall that the 32-year-old Hazard joined Real Madrid from Chelsea in 2019 for €89 million, but played just 54 league games for the Spanish giant and left the club at the end of last season. He won 2 Premier League titles during his time at Stamford Bridge. Hazard, who has been a free agent since his contract was terminated in June, said, "You must listen to yourself and say stop at the right time." 16 years and more than 700 matches played, he said he had decided to end his career as a professional footballer. Meanwhile, the Belgian had already retired from international football last December after being part of the squad which was knocked out of the 2022 World Cup during the group stage. On our entertainment news, Big Brother Niger All-Stars winner Ilebeye Odinia, popularly called Ilebeye, has claimed timidity might be why her fellow housemates disregarded her during her reign as the head of house of the just concluded reality show. Recall that the housemate did not fully cooperate with Ilebeye during her tenure as the head of the house in week 9, which made them lose their wager tax that week. However, she went on to win the reality show and walked home with 120 million naira and a brand new car. While answering questions from fans during an Instagram live session, Ilebeye claimed her colleagues may have disregarded her during her reign as head of house because they were intimidated by her. Still on entertainment, Nigerian singer Ralph Njeng, popularly known as Kells, has cried out that he is being threatened for speaking out against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) after he was recently oppressed by its operatives. Recall that the singer recently called out EFCC, claiming heavily armed operatives of the agency broke into his house and wrongly accused him of being a fraudster. According to him, they oppressed him in the presence of his wife and 6-month-old daughter, stressing that he had a panic attack because of some health issue he is dealing with. He also said his producer was injured by the EFCC operatives. Taking to his X handle this morning, Skell said his life was on the threat following his revelation of his ordeal in the hands of EFCC operatives. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News at 2. I am Francis Oyima, Edet. Many thanks for being there and do enjoy the rest of your day.